The Persona games were always games I really wanted to play, and Persona 3 Reload ended up being my introduction into the franchise. And I had decent expectations heading into this game, but they weren't like anything crazy. I thought it was going to be a good game and nothing else. But the second that intro played, I knew this game was about to be a banger. So, did this game meet my expectations? Well, the second I beat this game, I proceeded to buy Persona 4 Golden and Persona 5 Royal. So yeah, you could say that this game kinda blew my expectations out of the water. This game just continued to get better and better as I played it. Like, I'm absolutely obsessed with the Persona franchise now, and I'm so excited to play 4 and 5, but I think it's going to be hard for those games to be better than 3. Like I said before, I was expecting this game to be good, but then it proceeded to become one of my favorite games of all time. I just genuinely love everything about this game, from the world, the story, the characters, the soundtrack. This game is just amazing in every way. It surpassed all my expectations I could have possibly had for it. This is easily the best game that I've played in 2024 so far. So, with that being said, let's get into my review on Persona 3 Reload. Persona 3 Reload was released earlier this year on February 1st, and it was a remake of the original Persona 3, which was released back in 2006. And that game most desperately needed a remake. Reload does an unbelievable job with this remake to really make it feel like a brand new game by adding a lot of cool features. They added new features with combat like shift and theurgy. They also added a rewind feature to reverse time, and lastly, probably my favorite thing being link episodes within the dorm. They just add so much to all the characters and makes you feel more immersed in the world. But there are a few things missing that were in the FES version. Those two things being a female protagonist and the Answer storyline, which they are making into a DLC. This was my first ever Persona game, so I wasn't too sure what to expect from it, and I didn't know where this game was going to shine. And the thing that stood out to me first was its music and soundtrack. I am not joking when I say this, but Persona 3 Reload might have my favorite soundtrack of all time. Like, this is up there with Minecraft, and that's already like elite company to be in. I knew this game was about to be something else when I heard that intro play, like I said before. I've never seen an intro for a video game go as hard as that. I rewatched it multiple times before I even started playing. Everything about it, the music, the art design, it was just so beautiful. But just the overall soundtrack is a work of art. I'm not ashamed to say this, but like, I just unironically be listening to the soundtrack on Spotify whenever I'm doing something. My favorite songs are Full Moon Life, When the Moon's Reaching Out Stars,
Mass Destruction, Color Your Night, It's Going Down, Changing Seasons, Burn My Dread, I'll Protect You, and Memories of You.
It's also really funny how they mumble the words for the song. I think it works perfectly for the game so you don't get too distracted by the words and it still feels like background music. But I be trying to pay attention to what they say and sing along, but bro, some of the songs are impossible to understand. They do an amazing job of using the music in the correct places to really enhance important moments or having a lack of music when bad things happen. I think that's something people don't always realize with music in games, but just how important it is to a game, and Persona 3 Reload does an amazing job with it. Overall, the soundtrack in this game is simply perfect, and I think it goes along with the setting so well. The setting in Persona 3 Reload is amazing in my opinion. It's very simple with what it does, and it's not a setting that's going to leave you speechless. But I think it does a great job with immersing you into the world and you really feel as if you are living in it. Obviously, with it being a Persona game, you are a high schooler, so the setting very much revolves around that. And I think it does a really good job of capturing that high school experience. You have your dormitory, Iwatodai Strip Mall, Naganaki Shrine, Polonia Mall, Gekogan High School, and lastly Port Island Station. On surface level, there really isn't too much to do in each location, with most of the spots being stores to buy stuff in or work at. But once you really get into the gameplay loop, you just start loving going around each location, just playing the game. Something else that Atlus just seems to do so well in all their games is their art style and UI. I don't see many games and companies focus on creating such unique UIs like Atlus does. And I know it doesn't directly relate to the setting, but I feel like it does enhance it. All the different menus just give Persona 3 Reload such an amazing feel. And don't even get me started on its art style. I fell in love with it basically instantly. It has its own vibe and fits the game so well. I also think that the people in the world enhance the setting. Everyone you interact with, from people you have social links with or just random people in the world, all these interactions do a good job of immersing you into the game and making it feel more alive. I also really like how the setting and vibe of the game changes as you play it. The game starts off very upbeat with only a few apathy syndrome people here and there. But by the end of the game, there seems to be barely anyone normal around anymore, with most of the locations being filled with people that have apathy syndrome. Another thing I love about the setting in this game is the dynamic of the dark hour. It is so cool to me how during the day you live this normal life as a high schooler going to school, but at night going into Tartarus and finding these shadows. I think it does a great job of building up this day-to-day life for the character, which helps with the setting and offers a really enjoyable gameplay loop. Speaking about the gameplay loop, the gameplay in Persona 3 Reload I really enjoy. With this game, it's very different from basically anything that I've ever played, as it has a day cycle where you can only do a certain amount of things in each day, and you can't just go about doing the main story as you wish or anything like that. You truly have to live day by day, and the main story occurs on specific days, and you have to play until you reach them. I absolutely love this concept because, again, it immerses you even more, and you truly are living day by day in this game. It's a very interesting switch, as in a lot of games you have a main quest that you can do whenever you want to, and there's not like a specific time where it happens. But with Persona 3 Reload, there is a specific time where it happens, and you just have to keep living life, building relationships, and going to Tartarus until then. I love the gameplay loop that it creates. But moving into the more combat side of things is also something I really enjoy. Persona 3 Reload is a turn-based system, and I love turn-based combats. I haven't played too many, but each one I do play, I really enjoy. The combat in this game is fairly simple and not too difficult, but what really makes the combat fun for me is all the different kinds of personas that you can use. It took me like a hot minute to figure out what they even were and what fusing meant and how all that even worked, but once I did, it was amazing. The combat is basic, as it mostly just revolves around knowing the enemy's weakness and having a persona to combat that, and using personas that didn't have weaknesses to the abilities that the enemies have. There are definitely deeper parts to it though, by getting equipment and boosts to help with resistances and higher chances to dodge certain attacks, and having companions that can boost stats for your own team and can lower stats of the enemies. Another awesome part about the combat I really like is the shift and theurgy abilities. Especially the theurgy and all your companions having different ones and being able to unlock secondary ones throughout the story was one of my favorite parts from the game. But talking about all the companions, let's talk about which ones are the best in combat. Let's get something out of the way first. If you did not bring Yukari on every single mission, I consider you an op. Her being able to heal all of us without barely using any SP was the best thing ever. The other three main people I cycled between were Akihiko, Aigis, and my goat, Junpei. And for the time that we had Shinji, that man was way too OP for this game. Then with Mitsuru, Ken, and Koromaru, I use them all a decent amount too. And the thing that I like about all of them is that they're all useful in their own way. Every character has their strengths and useful abilities. And depending on which boss you face, other companions will be more useful as they have resistances to their attacks. The biggest place that you'll be experiencing this combat throughout the game is Tartarus. This place is a massive tower that is originally our school but transforms into this tower during the dark hour. Tartarus is probably one of my bigger issues with this game. It's not like a massive issue at all that ruins the experience, but for me, Tartarus is fairly repetitive after a while. Even with the changes in scenery, once you get to certain floors, the gameplay loop of it basically remains the same and it can get a little annoying. But I still enjoy going through Tartarus, as I enjoyed the combat a lot and your characters would have these little remarks as you explored, which were funny to hear. And there are still some cool things within Tartarus, like how most of the floors change every night, the Monad doors, and the Reaper. To talk a little bit more on the personas in this game, I think they are such a cool concept. The way that you can fuse them together to create new ones and how each one has different strengths and weaknesses, I really like. Also, the idea behind how they are this manifestation of the person's inner psyche is awesome. This opens up such a cool way to develop characters in this game and to show their struggles and development. Like a major thing in Persona 3 Reload is the characters in your group going on these character arcs and evolving their personas because of it. And also, the fact that all their personas are related to mythology is so cool. The last thing that I'll say about the personas is how they're all related to these different arcanas, and how you're able to improve these arcanas by building social links is such a cool idea. It really builds an even bigger incentive on building these relationships with people outside of just growing a bond with them. By building stronger social links, these arcanas improve, which in turn will make your persona stronger and be able to unlock even more abilities. On the topic of social links, is probably one of my favorite concepts in the Persona franchise. Basically, social links are just bonds and relationships that you can build with characters in this game. There are a total of 22 different social links in Persona 3 Reload. I think they are such a crucial part of truly building up the world and immersing you into it. One of the biggest tropes in this game is the idea of the power of friendship. And okay, I know how corny it is, but somehow Persona 3 Reload was able to write it in a way where it's actually the most beautiful thing ever. Each social link heavily focuses on these characters' developments and growth. And for me, each one of these social links ties back into one of the biggest themes of this game, which is living life with a purpose and finding out what it means to live. This game heavily focuses on the importance of human connections in making these relationships and bonds. And I think that plays a heavy part into our main character in this game. It's one of the driving factors in Makoto finding a purpose to life and to finally start living for the first time. Building these friendships and forming these unbreakable bonds truly make Makoto into what he is. The power of friendship is done perfectly in this game, as from the start they make these connections a heavy focus and show that they're important. This game would not be what it is if they didn't have these social links. They are some of the most integral parts to Persona 3 Reload. But outside of the social links, we also have these things called linked episodes. These are basically social links for characters who are not linked to an Arcana. And to put it simply, the people that have linked episodes are just all the guys in your squad. I think this was an amazing addition to the game to add more depth to these characters and to be able to form these bonds that we wouldn't have been able to otherwise. Before I jump into the linked episodes, I'm going to try and save talking about anything within the main story until we get there. Starting off with Junpei's, his linked episodes heavily focus on him trying to find out what to do with his life and him dealing with feeling inferior to the protagonist. Junpei has always wanted to be this hero, but he is faced with heavy jealousy towards Makoto and wants to prove that he can be as good and even better. Junpei is arguably my favorite character in this game, and just watching him grow and really change his perspectives on life was amazing. Also, his relationship with Chidori is simply perfect and such an integral part in his character arc, but we'll get to that later. Moving on to Akihiko's linked episodes, again, I really enjoy these and the story behind them is fantastic. With Akihiko, we really see him start to open up about his past with the orphanage and the death of his little sister Miki. So much of Akihiko's life, he was so focused on growing stronger and protecting others that he lost sight of the people around him and the fact that he has people along his side to fight with him. His linked episodes are so good, and getting an insight on his past and living his life to the fullest for the people that have died in his life and continuing to live through them is so beautiful. He also still continues to fight and still pursues to grow stronger, but now he's aware of the people in his life. Lastly, the dynamic between Akihiko and Makoto is just amazing. I love it so much. After Akihiko, we have Shinji. And oh my gosh, I love Shinji so much. His linked episode is probably the most emotional one for me. Shinji's linked episodes heavily focus on his past with Akihiko and Mitsuru and them trying to get him to re-enroll in school but him not wanting to. And it is just beautiful in every way. The way that they set up the promise that he made to Mitsuru back in the day that they would all graduate together, and then after his death we find the paper in his room which was saying he was going to re-enroll. It was heartbreaking. He was gonna fulfill the promise but died before he was able to. Like bro, I was crying at this part. We don't get to experience Shinji for too long, but the time that he is in the game, he most definitely makes an impact and is one of the best characters. Also, I absolutely love cooking with this man so much. Following that, we have Ken, and to no surprise, I also love Ken's linked episodes. These linked episodes really focus on Ken's development and finding a purpose to live, as his linked episodes kinda have two sides of being before Shinji's death and after. Before his death, Ken didn't really have a point to living and wanted to end it all. And he had to battle with that, but after Shinji's death, he now has to live for himself and it takes him time to learn how to. Overall, I just love Ken's linked episodes. Next up, we have Koromaru's linked episodes. And with Koromaru, they're a little different from the other ones, obviously as he's a dog. But even still, I really enjoyed seeing Koromaru interact with the people around him and kind of being seen as his protector and guardian for everyone. Carrying on the idea of protecting the shrine and others. I think it fits the theme so well of the game as Koromaru continues to live after the priest's death. The last linked episodes we have are with Ryoji. Ryoji is one of the most crucial characters to this story, and his linked episodes are really enjoyable. We get to teach Ryoji about the point of life in forming bonds and relationships with others as he doesn't understand it. He's confused by the idea as he says we all die one day, so what's the point? And we get to teach him the importance of life and living it to the fullest. Ryoji and Makoto have such a unique bond that no one else can have, and I love it. We are finally done with the linked episodes, so I'm going to move into the social links and start off with the ones with the characters in our group. Starting with Yukari's social link, it heavily focuses on her dealing with her father's death and her not so great relationship with her mother because of it. Another big thing about Yukari is her struggles to open up to people and to be vulnerable. With everything that happened in her life, she struggled to form deep bonds with people because she would never truly be herself. But as the social link goes on, she starts to heal from her past and open up as a person. I really enjoy her social link and watching her develop throughout this game. Next up, we have Mitsuru, and her social link is all about her dealing with her father's death as well, but also trying to start living a normal life, not running away from her problems, taking responsibility for her dad's company, and making her own choices. She's faced with a lot of burdens and responsibility by having to be the heir of the Kirijo group, and she struggles to find a balance of that life but also following her own desires. She's never really experienced the normal things of life as she's always had these expectations and restrictions put on her, and she would always want to run away from these problems. But by the end of her social link, she faces them head on and grows from a very reserved and formal person to a lot more open and embracing her true self. Following that, we have Fuka, and with her, the social link focuses around her struggles with confidence and self-worth. Early on, Fuka is very shy and has lots of feelings of inadequacy. She would struggle to make friends because she wouldn't feel confident about her worth as a person. But as the social link goes on, she grows in confidence and is encouraged to chase after her dreams and what she is passionate about. And by the end, she has this new self-worth and self-assuredness about her and sees herself in a lot better of a light. And luckily, she was able to actually make good food by the end of our social link. And the last character in our group we have is Aigis. I love her social link so much and just her development as a character in general. She is a robot, so it really focuses on her understanding human emotions and finding her place in the world. She needs to learn her own purpose for her life instead of just being designed to stop and destroy shadows. So the social link is all about her learning these emotions and the value of life. She really starts to develop her own feelings and desires, and by the end is basically indistinguishable to humans. Her character arc is just unbelievable and it's just so integral to the overall narrative of this game. The Specialized Extracurricular Execution Squad is probably my favorite group of characters in a video game. They all just form amazing bonds with one another and really grow into this family by the end of the story. You care about all of them and they all have great character development. And all their development and growth so heavily relate to the overall theme and message of this game, and they build it up so well throughout the story. The characters and their dynamics are just some of the best I've ever seen in any form of media. The C's group is simply perfect. Okay, I really wish I could go in depth about every single social link in this game, but I can't have this video being like over an hour long, so I'm gonna speedrun every other social link and give it like a quick sentence about them. Akanari social link is arguably the best. It ties into the theme of facing death while still living life to the fullest so well, and the ending absolutely broke me. Kenji's belief that he's dating a teacher was funny, and he's just a good friend to have even though he's really stupid. Odagiri has good development and starts off annoying but is pretty cool by the end. The old couple social link about their dead son isn't like a standout one, but I still really liked it. Miyamoto's social link was good. The man was dumb destroying his life trying to win the race for his brother, but at least he came to his senses in the end. Maya's was funny with her being our teacher, but she seriously got be locked up. Hiraga's social link was decent and he really discovered what he truly wanted with his life by becoming a doctor. Bebe's struggle between his love for Japan and his family obligations in France was done very well. Tanaka's social link was funny and I liked his development. Mutatsu's social link to reconcile with his family is fantastic and is one of the best social links in this game. Hayase's sacrifice of his running dreams to help his family was really sad, but it did have a happy ending. Yuko's social link was amazing with training the kids to run faster, and just overall, her social link is probably one of my favorites in the game. Chihiro's social link is decent. I think she has really good development, but the social link isn't one of my favorites. Maiko's social link is amazing with her dealing with her parents' divorce. It's just a great theme and I really like her social link. Lastly, Suemitsu's development through his issues with bullying and loneliness and loss was solid. I really wish I could have gotten to those social links more in depth because some of those social links are just amazing. But with that being said, we can finally start talking about the story in this game, and who knows how long this will be. I want to start off by saying that Persona 3 Reload has one of my favorite stories in gaming. Everything about it was so good and it progressed beautifully as the game went on. Like, the story seems pretty simple at first, but they do such a good job at adding more layers to the story, and by the end, it being this beautiful masterpiece. I also believe that the theme and message behind this game is arguably my favorite in any video game. The idea behind finding a purpose to life and living it to the fullest while accepting the inevitability of death and still living life is beautiful. Starting off with the opening and prologue, I really enjoy it. I think it does a great job of setting up the world we're in, but also leaving a lot of questions to be answered. Like, when we saw Pharos for the first time, I was so creeped out and confused when I had to sign that contract, and then he started talking about how he can't escape time and all that. I straight up thought my character signed his life away in the first 10 minutes of this game. And how Pharos always visited us as we slept was also really creepy. But the opening of this game tripped me out so much. I had like no prior knowledge to Persona whatsoever, so I wasn't sure what to expect. And then I saw in the intro of the game, everyone shooting themselves in the head, and then at the start of the game, Yukari having the gun pointed at her forehead. I was tripping out. I was like, bro, why is everyone just trying to off themselves in this game? But yeah, I eventually realized it was just their evoker. It's also really funny how Makoto has no reaction to the Dark Hour whatsoever. I was like so confused why he was acting like that, but it makes sense once you understand his character and how he's like really apathetic. A big thing in the Persona franchise is your characters awakening to their persona, and this game does it so well. This whole entire sequence of our protagonist awakening to his persona was so cool. And it was one of my favorite moments in the entire game. Just hearing Pharaoh say, "Go on." And just that entire moment, oh my, it's perfect. Seeing Thanatos rip himself out of Orpheus was insane, and watching it back for the first time and making that connection after knowing what happens in the game was amazing. Like, this dude never fought a Shadow before and just picked up the evoker and knew what to do with it. That's why Makoto Yuki is the GOAT. One thing that actually does annoy me a lot is how Makoto has barely any lines of dialogue that are voiced. We have the line here where he says persona, but then he's mute the rest of the game. Like, I don't need him being voiced everywhere, but at least in some cutscenes give him a few lines or some big moments in dialogue. I think it would have improved the game a lot, but it's not like a massive issue. I would have just liked it if he was voice acted more. But yeah, the remainder of the prologue does a really good job of setting up the game and narrative. From there onwards, we just start living life and going to school until we go through our first ever full moon operation and our second one the following month. This is very much how the structure of Persona 3 Reload goes for a while, of having the full moon operations and between those dates just going to school, building your stats, social links, and going to Tartarus. And occasionally having main story moments in that time. I stated this before, but I really love this concept and way of creating the game. By having the story only advance on these days and making us the character live day by day until then, it really makes the world feel more real and immerses you amazingly. But yeah, nothing too crazy happens in your first operation, but the June operation is a lot more important as this is where we finally meet Fuka and she joins the team. I really enjoyed this mission with having to free Fuka from the shadows and just the mystery behind all the missing people. It was fun watching our characters from our team interact with this mystery. Then again, not too much happens until the July operation, and during this one we see Strega, who are one of the main villains in this game, for the first time near our squad. One thing that I really enjoy about all the full moon operations is how each shadow is completely different and has its own feel to it. I love how they're all unique from one another and how they're all different arcanas. But after these operations, the group finishes up their semester at school and goes on summer vacation. This is like the next big part in the story where a lot more gets revealed and things happen narratively. I see a lot of people say that Persona 3 Reload starts off very slow and not a lot happens, which I can definitely understand to a point, but I don't mind it whatsoever. I really enjoy the gameplay loop of Persona 3, so I really didn't have an issue with the first few months of this game just really being the full moon operations. But even if there's not a lot that happens narratively, there's so much that happens with building bonds with people in your group and people from school. And I think it's better that it starts off fairly slow because at this point in time we really don't know much of what's going on. But with this summer vacation to the Isle of Yakushima, a lot happens. And I love this part of the game so much. Not even just because of what happens narratively, but I feel like you really start seeing the group be closer, becoming these friends and growing these deep bonds with one another. But getting into the narrative side of it, the first day of our vacation, so much information gets dropped. As we are vacationing at Mitsuru's family mansion, her father has a tape to show us that reveals more about the origins of the Dark Hour and Tartarus. And it is revealed that Yukari's father was one of the main reasons for the Dark Hour and Tartarus existing, as he worked for the Kirijo group and died at this project. He also states in the recording that he is responsible for the shadows being dispersed and that to get rid of the Dark Hour, we have to destroy the remaining shadows on every full moon. Obviously, this is tragic for Yukari as she goes sprinting off, but this allows for a really beautiful moment between Makoto and Yukari. Yukari this entire time in the game has been trying to figure out what happened to her father and how he died. And she had such belief in him that he never did anything wrong. So to hear this news absolutely destroys her. But her and Makoto have a great moment together, which ends up with Junpei ruining the moment. Then with day 2, it starts off with Makoto, Junpei, and Akihiko all trying to pick up some girls and all horrifically failing.
Bye. Bye.
But as they're talking to girls, they find this last girl who ends up being Aegis, the robot who was designed to destroy shadows. Aegis was created 10 years ago as an anti-shadow weapon to combat shadows, but suffered an extremely bad injury in her first year and for some reason has just awoken now. And that basically wraps up the summer vacation in this game. I really do wish it was more than 3 days, but it's whatever. To summarize everything else that happens for the rest of the summer, we have a track meet that we trained for, Koromaru and Ken join the team, and then August 6th we have another full moon operation. And this is the first time that we come face to face with Strega as they are actively opposing us from destroying the Dark Hour. Also during the summer, Junpei meets Chidori for the first time, and that practically wraps up our summer. I did enjoy it, but I do wish that we were able to do a lot more. I understand not having the school social links being available, but I wish there were more opportunities to hang out with those people and a few more events that went on during the summer instead of basically only the summer festival. But there were some amazing moments during it and we got introduced to a lot of new characters. Moving into September, we are now officially back in school for our second term. And very quickly, Shinji joined our team this month. We have been trying to get him to join the team for a little bit now, and there's still a lot of mystery around him as a character up to this point. We don't know why he originally left the group, why he's talking to Strega, and so much more. Then September 5th marks the next full moon operation. The biggest thing that happens here is with Junpei being kidnapped by Chidori and then us capturing Chidori ourselves. But yeah, the rest of September is pretty chill and we move into October. And on October 4th, we have a full moon operation, and yeah, this is where the game just decided to become pure depression and sadness. In my opinion, from here on out, this is really where the story and narrative start to pick up and things begin to get revealed and just crazy stuff happens. The big thing that happens on October 4th is the altercation between Takaya, Ken, and Shinji. Ken and Shinji are missing for this operation, and once we defeat the Shadow, we get a cutscene with them. We learn that on this exact day, 2 years ago, Ken's mother died. And Shinji was the one that took his mother out with his persona. He lost control of it and she was a casualty. Like, this entire cutscene and sequence was insane. Ken's only motive for being alive the past 2 years was to get revenge for his mother's death and take out Shinji. In the part where Takaya comes in and starts explaining how Shinji and Ken are both short on time to live, as Shinji has been taking these persona suppressants which is slowly taking his life, and then Ken because he was planning on taking his own life after taking Shinji's. Like, actually the craziest of things. And then Ken accepting his death because he has no more meaning to life, but then Shinji jumping in the way and sacrificing himself to save Ken. It was actually heartbreaking. Then Shinji's final words to Ken are just so sad. Telling Ken he has to start living for himself now and that he has his whole life ahead of him. Bro, I was in tears. I was not expecting this game to do all of that. A little bit before this, I was saying how happy this game has been and how no one has died or anything like that, and then boom, they just take out one of my favorite characters. This is like the big changing point for Ken's character and ties into the theme of the game so well. Before we go any further, I just want to mention how heavily Ken has parallels to Thorfinn from Vinland Saga here. Starting off, Ken says his only reason for being alive is to take out Shinji to get revenge for his mother's death, which is exactly what Thorfinn wanted to do to Escalade to get revenge for his father. And both of them couldn't get revenge, and the people that they were trying to take out say to them in their dying words they need a new purpose to life and to live for themselves. It is so similar, it's crazy. But like, this isn't even the part that breaks me. It's the day after when they have his funeral and we get this moment with Akihiko, which is one of my favorite moments in the entire game. And you know what? I'll let this one play out for you guys because I can't give this scene enough justice with my words. I wanted to do it with Shinji's death as well, but that entire scene is like 12 minutes long, so yeah, I was not doing that.
Hey. At the usual for lunch. I was wondering what ramen tastes like when you skip class. It's surprisingly good. You could have invited me at least once, you know. Come on, say something. Why do you have to be like that? Always going off without saying a word. Put yourself in my shoes for a change. You think it's the other way around? Yeah, you're right. I was always the one running off on my own. I was too obsessed with getting stronger, ever since I lost Miki. That's all I've cared about. I thought if I was strong enough, I could protect anyone, but I was wrong. And now you're gone too. God, it's like the world is laughing at me. I knew what we were getting into. I knew we were putting our lives on the line, but I was so focused on fighting, and I didn't see anything else. It doesn't matter how strong I was. Look what happened!
Like, bro, I can't even put into words how beautiful this scene is. The voice actor for Akihiko, Alejandro Saab, take a bow because that was gut-wrenching and it felt so real. Like when Akihiko started crying, I was cooked, and then he says watch from there with Miki. The tears would not stop. This is where we see the first ultimate persona for a character from our group, and it's beautiful. Akihiko is face to face with his friend's death, but continues to live and fight in his name. Akihiko is one of my favorite characters in Persona 3, and this moment is perfect. Then the following day, we also get Ken's Persona evolution, which is also just an amazing moment for him. He decides to continue fighting and moving forward with his life and trying to finally live for himself. And also later in October, we get Fuka's ultimate persona. Like, everyone just wanted to have their character development in this month, I guess. And nothing really happens until our last ever full moon operation. We just go around, continue building up social links and living life. But November is an absolutely insane month. November 3rd marks the very last shadow that we have to take out to end the Dark Hour. All this hard work has built up to this very moment. So, we have this big fight with Strega, first trying to stop us, and then the last shadow. We take out Strega fairly anticlimactically in my opinion, but they do come back and don't die here, so I won't be too harsh on it, even though I did want more from this fight. Overall, I really do like Strega and their motives. It very much opposes our motives as they are seeking to bring about the end of the world and keeping the Dark Hour around. They see death as the desirable outcome and something they invite, which I find to be a very interesting concept. We take the last shadow out and everything seems pretty normal so far, maybe even bittersweet as we took the shadows out, but everything we've been working towards is over and done. So, the following day we have a big celebration for winning and taking them out. Everyone is having a good time, and we take a group photo and that's where this game ends, right? Right? Nothing else bad happens, we get our happy ending, and credits roll, and we're all happy. No? No? Oh, okay. Sadly, but fairly obviously, the Dark Hour is still here even after destroying the 12 shadows. And weirdly enough, Ikutsuki and Aigis are missing from the celebration. This is the point where the game takes a massive turn in terms of the plot, as our goal isn't changing, but how to reach the goal is completely changing. This is where Ikutsuki betrays us and the plot twist is absolutely insane. It's funny because I was always slightly suspicious of Ikutsuki because he looked eerily similar to Takaya. Even though I knew he wasn't Takaya, he still made me suspicious. Ikutsuki tricked us into destroying the 12 shadows to bring about death. He tricked us into believing that this would get rid of the Dark Hour, but instead we were helping it this entire time. Ikutsuki is straight evil, bro. This guy's actually insane. He straight up doctored Yukari's dad's final words to say that we have to destroy the remaining shadows and to trick us. Like, who does that? And unfortunately for us, Aigis is like kinda tripping out and listening to everything Ikutsuki says, so she captures us and knocks us out. And then we wake up, all of us getting crucified. Bro, I was actually losing my mind when I saw this. Like, why are we all on crosses right now? And then they also got Mitsuru's dad at gunpoint to add to it. The rest of the sequence was insane, with Ikutsuki and Mitsuru's dad shooting each other and her dad dying, Aigis saving us, and Ikutsuki losing it even more and kind of offing himself by falling off the tower. This game just decided to get so dark out of nowhere. The plot twist here was absolutely wild. It wasn't surprising that the Dark Hour was still around, but the Ikutsuki betrayal was insane, and how he'd been helping the shadows all along was crazy. Moving on from that, the following night, Yukari unlocks her ultimate persona by being able to watch her father's actual final words. The moment is so beautiful and puts her dad in a good light again as he was trying to stop the experiment. It's just overall a great scene and gives closure for Yukari. And then on November 9th, a new student comes to the school and his name is Ryoji. Bro, I peeped the fact that he was Pharaoh's almost instantly. There was a line that he says, I'm pretty sure on the first day, that sounded exactly like Pharaoh's, and instantly I knew. They also got like the same mole, which I didn't even realize until after I beat the game. But later in November, we go on a school trip to Kyoto. And I just love the trips in this game so much. It gives us a change of scenery and I really like it. I do wish that more things happened during this trip though, and we could actually go and do things instead of just getting told we did them. But there are still some things that happened during this trip, like Mitsuru getting her ultimate persona and the hot spring sequence. But yeah, that's basically about it, which is pretty disappointing. And you thought we were done with November? Nope. Even more stuff happens, and again, one of my favorite moments in the game, but also one of the saddest. This is the big moment between Chidori and Junpei. We have this mini fight with Chidori, but the fight stops short as she kinda loses it and calls out for Junpei. She basically pours it all out, saying how she's scared of attachment because then she starts being afraid of losing things. And whenever she is with Junpei, she fears these things and doesn't want her time with Junpei to end. But of course, Strega do what they do best and pull up on us at the worst times. And yeah, Takaya whips out the 9 again and just shoots Junpei and, well, he dies for now. When I first saw this, I really thought they just took out my boy like that. I was losing my mind. But then we get this beautiful scene with Chidori and Junpei in this dream state, and then Chidori saves Junpei's life using her abilities. But in fully reviving Junpei, she dies. And bro, I sobbed. Like, so many tears came from this moment. I'll just let her death scene play out for you guys so you can also cry at this.
So it worked. I can hear you. The sound of your beating heart. But that's all I needed to know. Now I can go on living in you. I'll always be with you.
Huh? Hey, Chidori! Stay with me! What the hell are you even talking about? Hey!
This is how it has to be. But don't worry. I'll protect you, Junpei. Always.
Yeah, same. I've got your back. I'll do everything I can to protect you. So come on.
This might be all I ever needed. Just being in each other's arms. It's nice.
Chidori!
I love you, Junpei. Thank you.
Chidori. You're kidding, right? Chidori. Say something, please. Chidori!
Firstly, the voice actor for Junpei, Zeno Robinson, that man must have had bills to pay because this performance in this scene was simply perfect. When he screamed, it just made me start crying even more. And some of Chidori's final words were just so sad, like when we heard her say that this is maybe all she needed just to be in Junpei's arms. Which again, plays into the theme beautifully of finding a purpose to life and it doesn't matter how small it is. Then following that, Junpei has the best ultimate persona awakening as his and Chidori's personas combine and just make for the most beautiful scene. They are endgame and I love their relationship so much. But after that heartbreaking moment, we continue with life and we finally move into December, and this month is also insane. And they waste no time at all, as on December 2nd they drop again one of the craziest plot twists and one of my favorite moments in this game. Look, I know I've been saying that a lot in this video, but like, I am being serious. This is the Aigis and Ryoji confrontation. We learned that Ryoji and Aigis fought there on that bridge 10 years ago, and that Ryoji's true identity is the Arcana Death. So basically we get a little flashback of their fight and learn that Aigis wasn't strong enough to take Ryoji out. So 10 years ago she decided to seal him, but there was only one suitable vessel at that moment, and that was us, the main character, Makoto. Death was sealed inside of us. That's why we had all these interactions with Pharos throughout the game, as he was literally inside of us. And Ryoji led him to find his 12 missing pieces so he can be whole again. This starts triggering all of Ryoji's memories and he finally begins to understand who he is. But he's stronger now and Aigis tries fighting him again and loses. And in her final moments before shutting down, she says she's scared, which is like the first time we hear her use human emotions, which is just so big for her character. Then the next night, Ryoji explains to us about how he's the appraiser for the fall and the rebirth of the maternal being Nyx. He explains to us that Nyx is to bring the inevitable extinction of mankind and that she can't be defeated no matter what. And that all of humanity will surrender their will to live and die. As Ryoji was able to have a human form and experience life, he is able to give us a choice. We can either forget everything, all our memories of the Dark Hour and our friendships formed during it, by taking Ryoji out and living ignorantly until the fall happens. Or let him live and fight Nyx even though we can't win. Even though Ryoji can't technically be taken out, there is a human part of him that can be. He said we have to make this decision by New Year's Eve. All I'm gonna say is that forgetting everything and not fighting might be the worst possible option of all time. There was no way I was ever gonna pick that option, and watching what happens if you do is just so sad. But yeah, the remainder of this game is just like really sad and depressing with this impending doom that the world and mankind are gonna die. After that, December is actually extremely chilled and laid back if we don't think about the decision we have to make. We keep building up social links during our final exams, and then you go on this nice Christmas Eve date with whoever you romanced. But yeah, the month flies by and it is now the day before we have to make the decision. Aigis finally returns to the dorm after that fight with Ryoji, and she unlocks her ultimate persona by finally starting to make her own decisions and be more than just a machine to fulfill a mission. It is beautiful development, and she is just an amazing character. So, December 31st rolls around and we have to make the decision, and it's an easy one. Obviously, we're gonna fight Nyx, and that will happen on January 31st. So now we're finally in January, and one thing that I really like that this game does is switch up the music. They switch the music from being really upbeat and happy to really sad and depressing because that's what it is. We're facing impending doom and death. But yeah, not too much happens this month besides this cult forming, basically worshipping Nyx and us preparing for the final battle. Then that day finally arrives. We have to go to the top of Taurus and take out Nyx, but to get there we have to once and for all take out Strega, and we do so. We finally make it to the top and face Nyx, and she's actually such a cold villain, it's insane. Its face is so creepy, and it's just such a well-designed character. And right before the fight starts, everyone is saying how they're ready to fight even if it means their lives, and it's just such an emotional moment, and I love this group so much. So, the fight begins, and this is just hands down my favorite boss fight in all of Persona 3 Reload. The way that Nyx goes through every single arcana and changes with it is so cool. And Nyx just drops the coldest line every single transformation.
The arcana is the means by which all is revealed.
And I just love how each arcana relates so heavily to characters in this game. And the lines that Nyx says as she transforms to them relate to those characters so well. I saw a comment on YouTube that I'm going to put on the screen right now that dives into it even deeper if you want to pause and read all of it. So, after the fight against Nyx, we obviously don't win as she can't be defeated. And this triggers one of the most beautiful sequences in a game that I think I've ever seen. Like, genuinely, the remainder of this Nyx boss fight actually altered my brain chemistry. It was that good. The cutscene of Nyx flying into the moon and it starting to come towards us was insane. I thought we were cooked. All of us can't stand up from the wind and pressure, but our boy Makoto locks in after he passes out. We wake up to Igor explaining to us that the strength of our social links and bonds will help us. And this is where the power of friendship card really starts to get played, but I ate it up, to be honest. Seeing all your maxed out social links talking to you, saying that they believe in you and everything was so beautiful. Like, it just really ties everything together so well, and you really feel as if you built these bonds with these characters, and it's amazing. And then we get given the Universe Arcana. This thing basically means we have the power of the entire universe, so Makoto just became like the most powerful being ever with it. I also love how the Velvet Room was like this elevator, which represents a set destination that all of us reach one day, which is death. I think that was really cool. After all that, another perfect scene occurs with it being the final showdown against Nyx. Makoto flies into the moon, and the scene is done so well with all of our team screaming out to us saying not to go, and once we're inside the moon flying into it, the scene is just so beautiful with all the colors and designs. And the scripted fight we have with Nyx is amazing. The music played here just hypes up the moment even more, and the way they transitioned into it from the cutscene was euphoric, straight up. The final fight against Nyx's core is completely scripted, which I love. It builds up the moment so beautifully. As you're fighting Nyx, you hear the voices of your entire team, and they give you the strength to fight Nyx, with the game straight up saying the power of friendship surges through you. Hearing all of them talk to you and saying they're with you was perfect. And the last line being Shinji saying,
Alright, let's do this.
Actually broke me. I love this group of characters so much, and they really did become like a family at the end of this game, and they truly did give the strength to Makoto and gave him a reason to live and fight and to be able to take out Nyx. With the final move of the battle, you perform the Great Seal, which takes up all of your health. This is going to take us out. We do the move, and we seal Nyx and win. We save everyone and destroy the Dark Hour, and it's all over. Once again, we get another beautiful cutscene of Ryoji speaking to our team after the events. After all that, a cutscene triggers and somehow Makoto lived. Even with the seal being meant to take him out, he's alive. For the time being. After that, time skips all the way to March 4th, and we quickly realize our entire group forgot everything. No one remembers the events from the Dark Hour or any of that, which is just so sad to hear, like all those memories and battles just forgotten. So, we go around on the last day of school talking to everyone for the last time. It was just such a beautiful touch of talking to everyone and hearing what they're doing and their plans for the future and plans they want to make with Makoto, which just breaks me even more. Because everyone you talk to says that you don't look so good and that you should maybe rest. Bro, I knew I was cooked. It was over. I was done for. I knew Makoto was gonna die when I heard them say that. So, we talk to everyone and go to bed. Once we wake up, this is officially the ending of the game, and it's one of my favorites ever. The day starts off with us talking to Aigis. Aigis remembered everything and said we should head to the rooftop to fulfill our promise. Earlier in the game, our team made a deal that even if we forget everything, they all promised to meet on the rooftop on graduation day. So, it skips to the graduation cutscene with Mitsuru speaking, and this part gets me every time. As she's speaking, everyone on our team remembers the promise we made to meet on the rooftop and all the events from the Dark Hour, so they go sprinting for the rooftop. And this triggers the final scene of this game, and it's simply perfect in every way. Like bro, I can't even help but cry every single time that I see it. We get the most beautiful monologue of Aigis just talking about what it truly means to live. Finding meaning in life, following your heart, accepting the things that you can't change, and finding out what truly matters to you. It's perfect in every way. And the fact that it's Aigis giving the monologue fits even more because I personally think she truly embodies the theme and message of Persona 3 Reload. And I'm sitting there crying the entire time. It was tragic. Like I knew Makoto was cooked, but I didn't want it to be true. When that screen popped up saying my eyes feel heavy, I actually just wanted to use an evoker in real life. And the music? Bro! Why'd they have to do me like that? Like it was actually unnecessary. And this is where the game ends, with Makoto closing his eyes and passing away on the rooftop where they all promised to meet on the final day. And as he closes his eyes, our friends finally make it to the rooftop, and this man dies with a smile on his face. He really is the GOAT. We gotta realize that the seal should have taken him out right then and there, but this man, with sheer resilience, fought to stay alive until he could fulfill their promise of meeting on the rooftop, and once they did, he was able to pass away peacefully. It is such a tragic but beautiful ending to this game, and it's perfect in my eyes. Well, almost perfect. One thing that Persona 3 Portable does is allow the character to have the final moments be with their love interest coming onto the roof, and I wish that was in Reload as well. Like still give us a whole monologue with Aigis, and then having that final moment with whoever we romance would have made it even better. But it's not that big of an issue. And for some reason, there's like this bug in the ending that they still haven't fixed where the entire screen becomes really blurry. Who knows why that happens, honestly. Then the end credits start playing and I'm crying like a baby nonstop. I straight up couldn't even fall asleep that night because I was crying so much. This was straight up how I was looking in my bed after I beat the game.
I should get some sleep.
This ending does so much for me and straight up made me start looking at life differently. This game hands down has one of my favorite messages in any form of media. I just love it so much and it made me value life even more and living day to day to the fullest. With that being said, the ending to this game is amazing and one of my favorites ever, and this easily solidified Persona 3 Reload as one of my favorite games of all time. Persona 3 Reload is a game that I was expecting to be good, but not this good. I am now officially obsessed with the franchise and basically anything that this team creates. I'm so excited to play Persona 4 and 5, and they are coming out with a new game called Metaphor Ray Fantasio, which I'm extremely pumped for. Persona 3 is one of those few games that I have barely any issues with, and the ones I do are so minuscule. Everything from the soundtrack, the world, characters, the story, it's all amazing. I know this entire video was just basically me glazing this game to no other end, like there's no way I can't. This is probably my favorite group of characters from any game. They just form such an amazing bond and are such a family by the end of it. I love all their dynamics so much and all their developments relate so much to the overall theme of this game, which I think is done so well. They all have their character arcs and watching them develop was amazing. And speaking about the theme and message, it's arguably my favorite from any video game. It tackles such an important concept to life, which is finding out what it means to truly live. This game takes such an amazing approach to it, and they do it so beautifully by having all of our characters seeking it and finding it. It's such an integral part of life to find out what it means to live, and I think that's why so many people resonate with this story. is because it tackles such a real issue in people's lives, and I also think that's why so many people say the story changed the way they view life. You start appreciating life more and finding out what it truly means to live. It's done so well. And I just also love the world of Persona, the concept of the Dark Hour, the shadows, personas, it's awesome. I'm so happy I ended up playing this game, and it's arguably my favorite gaming experience of all time. I wish I could play this game again for the very first time, but I am extremely pumped for the Answer DLC, which is coming out in September. I am way too excited for that. This game is hands down my favorite game from 2024 and one of my favorites ever. My final rating of Persona 3 Reload is a 10 out of 10. I put this game as my third favorite of all time, and it could arguably go higher. It is that good in my opinion. The Persona franchise has just become one of my favorite things ever, and Persona 3 Reload has forever altered my brain chemistry. This game is a true masterpiece that I think everyone should experience. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, I appreciate it so much, and I really hope you enjoyed watching it. This was hands down definitely my most ambitious YouTube project yet, and I really hope you guys liked it. And if you did, I would really appreciate the support by you guys liking, commenting, subscribing. Again, thank you guys so much for watching. Your support on my page means the world to me, and I will see you guys in the next video.
He's the